This is Critical Commentary with Maurice Williams. Today we'll be discussing the Hamas and Israel peace agreement as well as the continuing government shutdown. Blacks, Hispanics, and whites can't read. Why you think I started a podcast? It's a fucking racist thing with you niggas, and that's why I'm coming at you niggas next. They love to talk about black violence. Have you heard of white violence? White people commit violent crime at 3 times the rate of Asians. When is Nick Fuentes going to talk about white violence? Everybody's arguing about their 2 genders. I sat next to a hermaphrodite in math class. Am I allowed to talk about the Jews? If she wanted, we could do it in the morning. Yawning, letting my eyes stretch. Baby, I ain't a novice. I've been a dog. She FaceTime, but I never call. I wanted to name this segment, "The War is Really Over." However, as we unpack the particulars and the situation going on in Gaza and Israel, I'm not too sure the war is actually over. But for now, Hamas and Israel have agreed to a peace agreement, and they've agreed to the particulars and how they're going to carry out the prisoners, the hostage and prisoner swap. So they've agreed on the provisions and the implementation strategy, and phase 1, which was announced by Donald Trump, the U.S. president, phase 1 includes the 50 hostages that Israel says that Hamas still has, and they believe about 20 are still living. So some of them have died while in under the control of Hamas. They expect those 20 to come back within 72 hours. So for that, for Israel getting the hostages back, Israel on their end has agreed to allow aid back into Gaza internationally, as well as Israel will also have a ceasefire. So Israel will stop bombing, and Gaza, Hamas will also stop bombing. So that should all take place within the next 72 hours. Once the hostages, all 50 have been received by Israel, then Israel will give up the prisoners that Hamas has, and then after that, they will go into the next part where Hamas has agreed that they will step out of power. So we discussed that last episode. One of the sticking points on the 20-point plan was that Hamas no longer be in control of the Palestinians. So they are stepping away from power. However, it gets a little tricky. They're supposed to dearm. They may be disarming, but that's still a point of contention, but they're at least going through with the first phase. So what both sides have said is we want a ceasefire. We're going to have a ceasefire. Hamas has said we'll give up the hostages. Israel has said in return they'll let the aid go back into Gaza, and they won't be dropping bombs. So we'll be having a follow to see if Hamas actually dearms. Now, since there's no bombs going off anymore, Israel has somewhat changed its stance towards Gaza, and they've said Netanyahu has extended his hand to Gaza through the peace treaty, but also other Middle Eastern countries such as Egypt, Jordan, believe Saudi Arabia. They helped with the mediation. So Israel has thanked them publicly, as well as Israel has said in general that they look forward to having peace. So I think this is important because I myself have covered how Israel was like devastating Gaza, and I've covered how sometimes Israel goes too far and may be seen as the aggressor. So now that Israel is getting the hostages back, which they said was their main goal, Netanyahu is at least presenting a positive and peaceful front. And based upon Hamas saying that they may not disarm, looking at this objectively, I can now look at this from a standpoint of, okay, I think these TikTokers on influence and people, Generation X, Generation Z, we need to look at this Middle Eastern situation neutral and objectively now and say there has been a peace agreement. So the bombs are stopped for now. If something is to begin, like if another war or more conflict breaks out, let's start from here, start from scratch. If it is Hamas, not Hamas, but, well, it could be Hamas. If it's Hamas or it's another militant or extreme Islam group, these same people saying free Palestine or calling Netanyahu, like myself, a war criminal, if it is the Islamics and the Muslims, extremists who commit the first act, just as vocal as we were against Israel, we should be vocal against the Muslim extremists and Hamas. Same thing. The bombs are supposed to be stopped. They've been in agreement. It's signed. Hostages are being traded. War prisoners are being traded. If for some reason we find out that Israel is bombing somewhere, we should hold Israel accountable and state there was a truce. No bombs should be dropping. So whoever's the aggressor whoever's fires the next bomb should be seen as the aggressor. And the reason that this is actually important is that because as I was preparing for today's episode, I saw that even though there was an agreement last night, Trump announced the agreement last night, but even into the night, there were some bombs dropped by Israel on another part of Gaza. It was like, I believe, the north. We have this. I don't have the exact name of the region, but Al Jazeera has reported that Israel continued operations and bombed western areas of Gaza City. So I'm not as familiar with Gaza as maybe I should be, but from reading this, it makes me believe that the agreement and where the fighting was, there's a truce there, but Israel has now dropped bombs on another region in Gaza to the west. I thought it was the north, maybe it's the northwest. But so everyone is happy about this. The UN, America, Democrats, Republicans alike, everybody is, myself, is happy because people don't want to see innocent people die. So the hope is that this truce can last and that maybe other places that do have tension with Israel, maybe they are open to finding out how the U.S. or other Middle Eastern countries can help assist with creating greater stability in the Middle East. Because greater stability in the Middle East would help out worldwide in terms of gas prices as well as immigration and other things. When there's wars, people travel. A lot of people currently, and not a lot, but some conservatives are saying there's too much migration. Well, if you don't have war and famine, the people in the Middle East can stay in the Middle East. Same thing with gas prices and other economic things. When you have instability, the gas prices go up because we get gas from Middle East. We get some gas from Russia. But when Russia's fighting Ukraine and the Middle East is fighting amongst themselves, they're short on supplies. The demand is still high, so they raise the prices. So it's just better overall for Americans in the world if there is stability in the Middle East as well as some of the other regions. Moving on to the government shutdown, the news last night was that I already discussed that there are furloughs happening, but one of the big furloughs discussed was the IRS. So about, here we go. I found it for this one. There are 75,000 employees working at the IRS. Some 34,000 may be furloughed. So that's like half of the staff at the IRS not going to work, and they won't be received. They probably received their last 2-week paycheck, but they won't be receiving the upcoming paycheck for this pay period. So that's a big effect for those 35,000 people who may have bills. And I stated last episode that you are giving back pay. You are supposed to be giving back pay, but I found out that from a statement by President Trump that the back pay is based upon Congress agreeing to pay you the back pay. So, I mean, as you can see, there's a whole lot of problems with this. Congress is still getting paid and they're not going to work. You're not going to work and you're being furloughed because of something Congress did, not yourself. And Congress, since they are receiving their money, they're paid no matter what, whereas the government workers may not be paid if Congress can't agree, and we're in the problem we're in currently because Congress can't agree. So it's a very tough position for American workers who work with the government, because the money that they may have thought they were going to receive, they may not, because the people who are fighting currently have to agree for them to get paid. As well as these shutdowns are still impacting air traffic controllers, so the airports, as well as government contractors. There was another vote, because I mentioned some votes last time. There was another vote to get a resolution which wouldn't end the larger argument between the subsidies that the Democrats want extended permanently versus the cuts that the Republicans are trying to get. The Republicans are trying to cut about $1 trillion in healthcare. The Democrats maybe, I wouldn't say raising healthcare, but they'll be spending government money on healthcare. There was another vote to get not the larger situation fixed, but a smaller bill just to keep the government running until November 21st was put up for vote by the Republicans. That bill, the vote was 52 Sorry, you guys. That bill was 5247. So some Democrats voted for that bill, and one of the Democrat leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, was actually accosted by one of the Republican congressmen because he walked up to him on the Congress, not the Congress floor, but in the Capitol, and he asked him, "Well, some Democrats have voted for this bill that would allow America." The main point about this bill that the Republicans did set forth is, while they're trying to figure out what would be permanent and what won't and what would be cut, there's a bill that the Republicans have set forth to the Democrats that states that while they're trying to figure everything out, the people would still be allowed to stay on their health care. So what the Republicans are now pushing that towards the Democrats is, though there's not a permanent finalized deal worked, the Republicans did listen to the Democrats and are listening to their constituents and the American people. They see that maybe they won't be able to cut the Affordable Health gut it. They basically want to gut the Affordable Health Care Act, but they won't be able to cut it like they would like to. So they've put forth a bill that I haven't seen the bill, but based upon what the Republicans are saying, they've put together a bill that's allowing some of what the Democrats want. So from their side, it is somewhat of a compromise. And based upon what Hakeem Jeffries said, so I can't speak for all Democrats, he was not open to discussing anything with that particular congressman. He did, however, politicians are very smart, they're very clever, they're very witty. He did say while talking to that congressman, he said, "Well, I offered to talk to Mike Johnson, who is the head of the Republicans." So it might not be a situation of him not liking the bill. He may just want to discuss the bill in front of the American people, and he may just want to discuss the bill in a public fashion against another leader in the Republican Party. So I understand where he's coming from, but that's kind of like theatrics to me. I mean, if there's a bill that some Democrats like and the Republicans like, and it'll keep the government open and it's going to have a compromise, I think both sides should go ahead and compromise to keep the government open to help all these workers. Before going to that, I was talking to a producer kind of like off camera, and this is just an idea that I had. It's not really, I guess, news, but I don't mind sharing my opinion. I am aware of some people who are paying like $500 a month for insurance. I believe that is high. I'm aware of some people who are paying $10, $15 a month for insurance. That's low. So I can see why people paying $500 a month, and these people I know paying $500 a month are not multimillionaires. They're not running Fortune 500 companies. They're regular workers. I consider lawyers and doctors regular workers. Everyday workers. So the people paying $500, I can understand why someone else is paying $15 a month and they're getting similar care as you. Probably not the same, because as you know, each healthcare policy is different. So maybe for $500, you're getting care more often. You may be not having to come out of pocket as often, whereas some of the people paying $15 may not get all the services. But the people paying $15 may get the same services. I'm probably going to have to go ahead and look into this so that I can give you guys more accurate information. But basically, just the point of my example was to say, I can understand both sides in saying that if you're paying $500 and you want a break, maybe you can't get the break you want. But I think the Democrats and the Republicans should be able to get together and say, we both see how $500 is high on certain people. There should be a way to cut them, even if it's a small bit, to $470 a month. That may only be $25, but over the year, that's $200. If you're cutting it from $500 to $450, again, that's that's $50 a month, but over the course of the year, that's $500. It may not sound like a lot, but all of this helps with people when they have other bills, whether it's lights or the mortgage or gas, just a little bit over a long period of time, over a year, over years. This is really helpful to the American people. So I would just employ or suggest to Congress that we consider everybody's situation. I understand a person who may be only paying $15 a month, maybe just working a part-time job because the economy is rough right now. Everybody can't find work. So if you have a job, but maybe it's not full-time, or your full-time job doesn't make enough money, I still want you to go to work every day and be dignified. But I am okay with Congress and the other people suggesting that you pay a little bit more for healthcare. We do a lot for each other in America. So there are things that people receiving benefits don't put money in the pot for. So I believe that if you are willing to accept entitlement programs, you should at least be willing yourself to say, How about I try a little harder and see what I can do about my lifestyle to maybe where I can put up a few extra dollars. I think that would help the American budget, but more important, I think it would help the morale of the America as a whole. If people receiving entitlements were willing to put up more, I think that on the other side, you may see better, I'm not gonna call it treatment, but the way people who are putting up more may speak better about the people receiving entitlements. They won't call them freeloaders because they may have the dignity in themselves to say, wait, these people who don't have as much as I am are trying. It's all about effort, and not just effort in words, but that's why I'm saying putting up more money, right? If you're paying 15 a month and you start paying 25 to 30, though that may not be a lot of money to the people paying 500, at least people see a willingness of, like, just like I'm being asked to sacrifice for someone else, they are willing to sacrifice for me. Because that's basically what the people who are receiving entitlements would be doing. You already received your entitlements. There's no reason for a person who's paying 15 to pay 30. It's not in their interest. But if you're willing to help somebody else, it could show them, not show them, but it could put in their mind, wait a minute, this is a give and take. I see what you're doing. I'm willing to do for myself as well. And I just think overall in America, it could just help the morale and help us better engage with one another. There's another reaction video. So I did a reaction video of Emily yesterday. Still on her page. I seen Ilhan Omar here. So that's somebody I follow. She's in, well, I don't follow her on social media, but I know who she is. She's one of the, she's like AOC. I think there's a name for them, and I forgot the name, but the Republicans called them a group. So I would just be interested in seeing like what Emily has to say about her. So I'm about to check out this clip for you guys. I also see one on Jimmy Kimmel, but I won't check that one out just because the producer pulled some other stuff up. So let's make sure the volume is up all the way, and we go straight into this reaction.
Rightfully so. Ilhan Omar, she's insane, as we know. She says Republicans are full of shit for acting like Charlie Kirk wasn't a bad guy.
There are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate. There is nothing more up than to completely pretend that, you know, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so. These people are full of and it's important for us to call them out while we feel anger and sadness. Like, I have empathy for his kids and his wife.
Okay, so producer told me don't rewind them, but I'm playing it longer so people can see what everyone's saying in the clips. Now, Emily said that Ilhan Omar called Republicans a piece of shit. I guess she did at the end, but it seemed like she was saying that she has empathy for him, but she's also saying that some of the things he said to her were offensive. So I've covered Charlie before, and I think Charlie was for civil debate. So I'm in agreement with the Republicans and the conservatives that the way Charlie expressed himself was civil. But like I have said, he had an undertone to him, a narrative to him. He had a way of saying it where there was a dig still there. You can tell when someone's telling you something, but there's a deeper meaning. So I think what Ilhan Omar was trying to say was that he was politely being racist. I call that soft racist sometimes, but he was politely being racist. And for that, she is saying she had a strong stance against him. So to her, she doesn't see him as a hero, and she may not cry over his death or put him, like, praise him or look at him in an exalting way, because as a person, when he was living, she thought that he had flaws and problems, and her personal belief is that he is, not the great guy that the conservatives are saying. But let's see how Emily responds, because that's what I took from Ilhan Omar. I heard that she cursed and said it was fucked up and things. I think she's just talking about it was fucked up, the digs Charlie was taking and the narrative he was pushing. She's saying that's fucked up. I don't think she's praising him dying or anything.
You have empathy for his wife and kids as he just died, and you say he's full of shit. The craziest part is every single one of these people who says he's a bad guy, he's never hurt anyone. He's never done anything bad. You guys praise criminals on a daily basis who are actually bad and actually hurt people. say he said bad things. What did he say? Without taking him out of context and cutting and skewing the way they want. No one's ever been able to be like, oh, he said horrible things. No, he said the truth. You guys just don't like the truth. Democrats don't like the truth. I mean, we have someone who's in government sitting with a hijab on. Like, sorry, what are we doing, guys? These people...
Guys, I'm gonna have to start stopping it during reactions because there's so many thoughts be popping into my head. Okay, so I don't think anybody's saying that Charlie Kirk was actually violent, but I think what some people are saying is sometimes these narratives that get pushed, like if Charlie's saying that black people were, let's say I can't do an exact quote because I don't have it in front of me, but I know he's mentioned, for example, that like 13% of the population committed 50% of the murders. So actually that stat changes because I think 2023, it was 13% of the population, which is blacks, committed 35% of the murders. But that's not all 13% that we've gone through before. It's a small percentage of people. So I think what Ilhan Omar and other Democrats are trying to say is, though, when you generalize things that only affect a small number of people, first off, it's inaccurate, but second off, it can lead people to be like Dylan Ruth, who went out and killed a bunch of black people. It's like, in some way, you're dehumanizing all blacks because you keep trying to group the larger group with the small group causing a problem. So you have people who are deranged who may keep hearing this over and over and just start to think, oh, 13% causing problem, 13% causing problem, 13% causing problem. You keep saying this over and over and over to Republicans. You keep saying 13%, which means blacks. 13%, which means blacks. It gets to a point where certain people are starting to think, oh, blacks are a problem. Well, if blacks are a problem, they think we need to go and harm blacks. So my belief is that though Charlie himself may not have hurt someone, she's just saying that just as conservatives are saying the Democrats' rhetoric may have caused someone to hurt Charlie, she's saying that Charlie's rhetoric could have caused someone to hurt black people. Not sure if the viewers will be following this, but it makes sense to me. Like, both sides are saying the same thing. It's just depending on who gets hurt, they pick a different side to argue from. And then also she said something about a hijab, which kind of upset me because I'm thinking nuns wear the same sort of headpiece that Islamic people wear. But when a Muslim person wears it, it's supposed to have a negative connotation. But no one's saying when somebody's dressed like a nun that it's a negative thing. So that's what I mean by like the dog whistles I hear from conservatives and Republicans. Y'all keep saying Democrats and liberals are wrong, but they have minds and they're paying attention to the things people are saying. If Emily wants to have a dialogue with the other side, which she may, I think she should just consider thinking more about what she says. When you say the hijab, it's not going to say it's an attack, but it kind of is an attack. She's trying to make a statement and saying that doesn't belong in America, right? She's trying to say that's Muslim culture, and she's trying to say that type of thing is not an American value, which doesn't make sense because, as I just stated, Americans based on Christianity, Catholics are a big part of the Christian community, and nobody has a problem with the head garments that the nuns are wearing. Probably missed something else in this reaction, but I will let it finish.
Need to take accountability. This is why these things happen, and only to people on the right. I mean, this woman is...
We about to get into it because I'm stopping it, guys. So people on the right and left have been killed. Two Democratic state representatives were murdered. One of them had a spouse murdered. Steve Scalise was shot. Charlie Kirk was shot. This political violence is not happening just to the right. It's not happening just to the left. It's happening to both sides because both sides have hyperbolic rhetoric. So for Emily to sit there and say it's just happening to the right is just a total lie, and I have to call her out on that.
Sick. She needs to be investigated for a lot of things, including the shady money, her probably marrying her brother, her promoting Islam and all this bullshit in America.
Emily, what is your problem with Islam? You don't have a problem with the Jewish people, I've noticed from seeing your tweets and some of your Instagram posts. You don't have a problem with Jewish people, but you have a problem with Muslims. Jewish people either don't believe Jesus exists, or if he did exist, they don't believe he's the Lord and Savior. Muslims don't believe he's the Lord, but they do believe he's coming back. So I'm somewhat, and Muslims see Jesus as a prophet. Muslims read the Bible and use the Bible as part of their values. So I'm just confused that why there's so much hate coming from certain conservative Christians toward Islam. I can understand extreme Islam being a problem. I can understand extreme Judaism being a problem because I've never read the Talmud, but I see lots of anti-Semitics talking about all kind of negative things that are in Jewish, I won't call them holy books, but in Jewish doctrine or Jewish text, right? So there's supposedly negative things in Jewish text. There are negative things supposedly in Islamic texts. What's the difference? Why is it a problem to push Islam, but not a problem to push Judaism?
Or it doesn't belong. Sorry, I'll say it. I don't want anyone in office with a hijab on. You don't.
This is what I'm saying and why I call her low IQ. You don't want anybody with a hijab on. Again, do you have a problem with nuns being in office? That's not a rhetorical question. I know the answer is no.
Don't belong here. Your loyalty is not to America. And she has never once proven that. And to say that about the one.
I hate to go in on Emily, but back to Israel. Nobody in the Middle East not nobody, but there is not a large percentage of people who are in Congress or who have influence over the American government who are dual citizens of Egypt and America, or dual citizens of the Palestine, Gaza, which isn't even a recognized state, but you don't have people who are dual citizens of Gaza and America. In terms of Israel, you have many politicians who are dual citizens of Israel and America, and you have many people with money and influence who are dual citizens of Israel and America. So you're saying that she's not loyal to America, but there are Americans who have power and money who you don't call out, who are dual citizens of another government. So if you're going to be fair, you need to call out the dual citizenship and putting other foreign nations before America on both sides, not just picking on Democrats or liberals.
Person who truly represented America is disgusting. This woman is disgusting, and I have no empathy for her. One of the most hated people in America, and rightfully so. Ilhan Omar.
All right, guys. So yeah, I tried out the way of watching the clips, letting it play through. I'll try it again, but yeah, I get thoughts and I might just be popping them short on y'all so I could give y'all my reaction to each part of the thing the other person is saying. Okay, next clip. I'm gonna read it to see what's going on. Nick Fuentes tells Dave Smith why he's not sure that racial harmony is possible. Okay, I definitely believe in racial harmony. America has that now for the most part, except when the extremes start making too much noise. Non-whites. Oh, this might be from the actual clip, so I won't read that. I'll just listen to it.
If another group has power over you, there's like an inherent suspicion because it's like, well, this guy's not really looking out for me because he doesn't look like me and he didn't come from where I came from and he's not like me. And the problem with this is after there's so much conflict, the non-whites don't trust whites and the whites are rightly skeptical of the non-whites because the...
All right. Like I say, sorry for cutting it short, guys. See what he's saying? He says, you don't look like me. He's saying you don't look like me based on race. That could also be gender. It also could just be, you could have two white people, but if they're not in the family, not in the same family, they don't look alike, right? So as always, what he's saying is generally true. A brother and a sister are going to trust each other more than a cousin. A cousin is going to trust each other more than a neighbor. A neighbor is going to trust you more than someone a block away. And someone a block away is going to trust you more than somebody in the next city. So basically, we wouldn't be able to trust anybody except for ourselves using his logic. I mean, obviously, no one's going to look exactly like someone else, so you should be able to trust people who look different from you. I do see what he's saying as you go further away, different people, different cities, different races, there's more trust lost. Instead of saying it can't work, I think we should work together to make that work. That's one of the reasons I said I was cool with the white people saying nigga, because I know that's a big thing in terms of like black people. They're upset about like white people saying nigga, but my thing is like, I have a problem with a real racist. So I'm going to know not just by whether you say nigga, like N-I-G-G-A or nigger, N-I-G-G-E-R. I'm going to see how you treat me if you racist. I'm going to see how you treat other blacks if you racist. Racism is it's what you think, but it's also how you carry things out. So whether or not someone says a word is totally irrelevant. what is your behavior? And if you're behaving racist, you're a racist. And that's the actual problem, is how you're behaving, not so much if you use a word. Let Nick continue.
The non-whites seem to have a license to hate whites. Non-whites have like inherent distrust, basically like a veiled hatred and resentment. And they feel completely able to express that. And so the fundamental question is, how now do the races share power in a way that isn't contentious? How do we find
That part was true. White people are allowed to talk about other whites. Blacks are allowed to talk about other blacks. Blacks are allowed to talk about other whites. Whites aren't allowed to talk about other blacks. So just for that point, he didn't even expound upon it, but I am, and I'm saying that is a wrong that we need to address as well. There has to be a way for the other side, the conservatives or white people, to discuss gripes that they have. You should, basically like what Charlie Kirk was doing. That's why I'm saying Charlie Kirk was civil. I disagree with him, but he wasn't wrong to get the ideas out. He got the ideas out in the correct way. The response to Charlie Kirk was supposed to be nonviolent, and it's supposed to be him sitting across from someone of a different perspective who is also has knowledge on the topic, and they should just be able to hash out their ideas, and the American people are supposed to just decide as a whole. And every individual is going to think something different, but what I mean is just we should get that information, and we should just see where the majority of the people feel. Who did they agree with? Did they agree with Charlie? And if so, what could be done about it? Did they agree with the opposition stance to Charlie? If so, what can we do about it? Or how do we implement that side's ideas and policies?
understanding? And I don't know if that's even possible, because the concern from the alt-right was always, in particular, in a democracy, in an open society, when politics gets racialized, it basically just becomes like a race war. Yeah. It turns into like a soft form of a racial war. And, now they're saying woke right. I think the reason they're doing that, and they want to, just kind of get rid of identity politics and find a consensus, is because they want for the whites now not to fight the non-whites. They want a situation where, like you said, we're going to have happy liberal whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians all living together. I just don't know how possible that is at this point. And that's where people start to talk about.
We have that in cities. For the most part, I don't think the violence is due to race. I'm telling my eye, guys. I don't think the violence is due to race. I think the violence is more so to do with like socioeconomics, just from the standpoint of the violence people are concerned with is like armed robbery, carjackings, and murder. You do have people murdering that's not based, like you have doctors who commit murder. You have people outside of the stereotype who commit murder. But I think why he's saying we don't have an homogenous society is not those type of murders. I think people expect those type of murders because they just happen. I think the issue is because the lower class is a certain race, that type of murder is being highlighted and being picked on because it's a racial type of murder. For example, if you were to move the blacks out, the lower class blacks, move in lower class whites, if they still had lower class whites committing murder, Nick wouldn't be able to say, oh, whites can't live by other whites, right? So I don't think that race is why people can't live together. I just think in cities you have a clash of classes. So the clash of classes causes a problem. And also, as we discussed last time, just having so many people changes your behavior, like the rats experiment test that we discussed last episode. So just those factors, the different classes, the different races somewhat, and also the amount of people, it just causes a different environment in cities. So I think cities will just have the problem that Nick is trying to say is why Americans aren't in a more peaceful society now.
Can we disintegrate? We were forcibly integrated with immigration and after civil.
Bro, we were forcibly immigrate. We were forcibly integrated when the Europeans enslaved the sub-Saharan Africans. Black people did not ask, nor did we want to be around white people. You guys came by us and took us and brought us here.
Rights Act. Can we now go our separate ways? I don't know that that's actually even a good thing, though. I don't know that that's even like a good answer. But I would say where it starts is just with honesty. Ultimately, there's got to be a recognition that there are legitimate grievances on both sides, and there are illegitimate grievances.
Right.
Bro, I don't know. Maybe one day me and Nick can like talk and do an interview because it's like a back and forth. Again, I mean, dude's saying a whole bunch I agree with now. So right, it's insane talking about it's insane to think that all blacks would need to leave or that all blacks are acting away or all whites are acting away. An honest conversation. See, I'll say this about Nick. He got canceled. They took him off all the streaming platforms, even YouTube. I didn't agree with that. I always thought his voice should have been allowed to be heard because so many people thought what he thought, or even if you don't agree with Nick and you don't think what he thinks, there are a lot of people who just wanted to hear the counter argument or to just know what others were thinking. So I think there's been a disservice done to Nick, kicking him off YouTube, kicking him off X, kicking him off TikTok, right? I think that in myself seeing more of his interviews, he says a lot of dumb shit. But if you let him get because people may say I say some dumb shit too. If you let him get everything out inside of the dumb shit, he has some places where a lot of people, the majority, may agree with him. The honest dialogue needs to happen. That's why I started my show. I thought he started his show from the standpoint of just trying to bash Jews and bash blacks. Again, I need to take time and maybe look at his full episodes. Maybe there's a lot going on in his episodes, and maybe he's breaking down race more complex than I thought. Maybe he's breaking down Judaism more complex than I thought. And maybe people are just clipping the most hyperbolic things, because from the end of this interview, I would just take from what Nick is saying is he's saying, okay, probably if everybody hadn't mixed, it might have been better from the standpoint of, yes, as a group, whites tend to act a certain way, which is slightly different from blacks. So when you start looking at billions of people on a large scale, like I say, these small differences can turn into like big noticeable differences. Whites are like 10% on welfare. Well, that's a certain type of culture. Blacks is 25%. That's a different type of culture, because in a black culture, the top percent has to carry the lower percent economic-wise more because there's a higher percent needing help. Whereas in a white community, there's a 10% group needing a welfare and 90% not. So the white community they would generally ask less of their top percent because they have a lesser bottom percent. Whereas the black people, again, would ask more of their top percent because they have more of a bottom percent. So I just say that to say I can see how maybe what Nick is saying, if people of different, which I'm asking for Congress to do, if people of different perspectives got together and worked through things, even though whites could always say, well, in an all-white society, we would have to do less because it would be less poor people. Okay, this is true. Since y'all brought us over here and we worked as slaves for free and helped build up industries, even though in the regard of welfare right now, we're more of a burden than whites. Whites only have 10% on welfare, blacks have 25%. We're more of a burden now, but we are a part of the culture. So we help out with the things that we do well. You guys help out with the things you do well. Let's just, since we're all here, we're all Americans, we speak the same language. Black people believe in freedom of speech. Black people believe in the Constitution. Black people believe in the things that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson set forth. I don't think that black people are against Western values. I really just think what it comes down to is we feel as though we're not part of the Western values, because first off, when we say Western values, it kind of makes it seem like it was only Europeans who had those values. If you go look into history, you'll see Asians had it, sub-Saharan Africans had it, other people had those values. But also, y'all say they're Western values, and then there's a lot of accountability asked of the blacks, and there's a lot of focus placed on blacks. So just as a black person, what I'm saying is that I just stated I agree with tons of Western values, or what we're calling Western values. The only issue comes in, as I stated, I feel this way. I think other blacks may feel this way as well. It feels like we're not a part of the Western values, like how, to go back to Emily early in the episode, when she said the thing about Ilhan Omar, the hijab threw me off because Ilhan Omar, it was kind of like she's saying Muslims, but then also Ilhan Omar is black. So it kind of, I didn't think she said it because she was black, but when you say those things and a person is black and I'm black, we kind of are untrustworthy towards you guys, and we take it to mean more than just the hijab. We kind of read into it like, oh, Western values, you mean white people. So maybe the conservatives could clarify. They tweet a lot and they have a lot of reels. Maybe you guys could clarify what Western values are and who's a part of the Western values, right? Are African Americans a part of these Western values? Or can immigrants come and assimilate? Immigrants who don't assimilate will cause a problem because that's a different culture. Immigrants who assimilate aren't causing a problem. So how can we get the people who come that are migrants to assimilate? Not saying we have to accept the world's migration, but just stating that it's a land of immigrants, Europeans migrated, and we currently are open to immigrants because I don't know if white people know, but they're not having as many babies as some of the other cultures. So we are accepting immigrants. So to at least compromise on that issue, focus on assimilation and not saying that people can't assimilate. There's another clip on Nick and then their community comments. So let's check out this clip. I know I talk a lot, guys. My bad. Check out this clip and then go to the comments. This is somebody named Glenn Greenwald. Don't know who he is, but someone did tweet or leave a comment about him. So we're checking it out now. I forgot your name, but we're checking out what you mentioned to us.
Like, what to you is the difference, other than just numbers maybe, between immigrants of 100 years ago and the immigrants of now?
Well, difference is race. The immigrants of 100 years ago were racially European. And, you know, there's sub-races in Europe. People get at that. They talk about how the WASP, natives of America.
I think I'm going to give better reactions if I just tell you guys what I'm thinking. Now, the guys, Greenwald says we're going to talk about immigration. I just spilled on how we could assimilate. Me and Nick just agreed on the last clip, so I'm thinking we're about to come in with more agreement. He says the difference is race. I'm leaning to thinking he's about to go on his bullshit racial theories and narratives again. Because he just said that the difference is race and laughed.
Didn't take a shine to the Italians, Irish, Jews, Slavs, etc. that came in. With the exception of Jews. I don't consider Jews, they're sort of a distinct group, but they were all white. Italians are white, Irish are white, and that's why it was easy for them to assimilate. You know,
he's rewriting history. The Jews were in the ghetto in the 1930s. The blacks were in the ghettos in the 1930s. The Hispanics were in the ghettos in the 1930s. The Italians were in the ghettos in the 1930s. I know y'all heard of the Italian mafia. He's acting like white people came over here and the other whites accepted them. That is totally not what happened. The British whites were the American whites, and when the worldwide Britain and Ireland got in a fight, but then even coming into America when different groups came, whether they were French, whether they were Spain, which is Hispanic, whether they were Italian, whether they were Jewish, they were all mistreated by the British Americans. So this is a rewrite of history stating that whites just came and assimilated together. That did not happen.
My ancestors, most of them were white. I have one grandfather who's Mexican. The rest of my grandparents.
Bro, you only have 4 grandparents. So 25% of your DNA is Hispanic or Mexican. So you're trying to just make it like you're white, and it's obviously like you're not. That's why you said it in the way you said it. Well, most of my grandparents are. I just have one grandparent that's this. If you would have had 2, you would have been half Hispanic. None of my grandparents are white, but as all black, not all, but majority of African Americans are 25% European. So basically, how you're the amount of Hispanic DNA in you is the amount of white DNA in most African Americans. We can't just belittle 25%. It's not almost half, but it's one more grandparent will put you at half.
Or Irish and Italian, they look like the.
Wait a minute, bro. You Mexican, Irish, and Italian? You are in no way the founding stock of America.
Native people, they practice Christianity, a different flavor of it. They come from the same continent. They're racially white, and I do believe that.
I see why you trying to make everything racially white. You have no kind of tie to the people who founded America, which was British Europeans, Northern Europeans from Britain. Again, the group of stock you come from were the whites who the British thought were less, the Italians who they thought were violent, who people still think are more violent because of the mafia. The Mexicans who people don't even want to come to America. I'll do a spin on the Guadalupe Hidalgo treaty about how the people who used to be in Texas are now in Mexico. So basically, there was a time when today's Texas and Louisiana and California, they were Spanish people, Spanish and indigenous people. So there was a war fought, and then those people were kicked out of their homeland and pushed down to Mexico. So you come from that stock. You come from the people that now Americans don't want in America.
Our race is a part of our distinct identity. And the people that are coming in now, they're Indian, they're Chinese, they're Hispanic.
That's the same. Bro, this is crazy. This is all crazy to me. The people who are Native Americans were from East Asia. The people who came around the time of Christopher Columbus were Spanish. You're saying that it just makes no sense. The people coming are the same people who have always been coming. There's been no difference in the people coming to the New World. The people from the Old World migrated to the New World. That happened thousands of years ago. It happened hundreds of years ago. It's the same group of people migrating from where they're from to where they are now. So I cannot follow the logic right now.
They're racially different. And I think people have, rightfully so, a lot of reservations about America going from a white country to a not white country.
Bro, you're not really white. Italians are not white. People from Spain are really not white. The Northern Africans enslaved the Moors, and then, as you know, the Spanish people went to Mexico and not gonna say interbred. That's kind of disrespectful, but they had children with the Native Americans. So a lot of these groups that people call mulattoes, a lot of these Southern European groups that people call mulattoes are like a mix of different genetics, and you come from that mix. I mean, you're hardly white at all, or you're hardly Northern European white like Hitler and Germany and them.
A country that was 90% white to a country that
America was never 90. This man is, man, I wanted to talk to you, but it's ridiculous. America was never 90% white. It's always been having immigrants. Let me calm down, because I think one of the comments said I just be bopping around. America was never 90% white. The 90% white statement comes from they've always, because of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, when America took in, there was the war. America won the war, but America stated that the Hispanic people and the natives could stay. The Hispanic people and natives always lived in California. They always lived in the Southwest. They always lived on the West. They counted those people as white on the census. So people are saying that these places had white people, but just like now, today, Hispanics are considered white. The only thing is on the ethnicity, they put Hispanic. So it's a trick that they're saying that never really existed in all of America. Yes, there's a chance that 90% of the Northeast America was British white stock, but the vast majority of America, like the continent we currently have, they always had the Hispanic people, and they always had the Hispanics and the Native Americans, who I consider East Asians, and the South always had the blacks, because that's where the slave, a large portion of slaves were in the South. So this 90% white is just not true. It's based upon them saying that the group I'm talking about was white, but now he's trying to say those people aren't considered white. It's the same people. They're just saying that they're Hispanic now, but they used to be white when it was 90%.
Maybe 70% not white. It won't look the same. It won't feel the same. It won't be the same. And these are people with a completely different heritage, different religion, language.
No, we all speak English in America for the most part as our first language. We're predominantly like African Americans are Christians, Hispanic people are Christians. Not sure what East Asians in America. I'm not saying worldwide Hispanic. Well, I think worldwide Hispanics are Christians, and even worldwide because of black people, Southern Africa being colonized, they're Christians too. So yeah, the people he's talking about are actually Christians. So I'm not going with his statement that the Hispanics and the African Americans and the East Asians and Native Americans aren't Christian. We follow the Christian. Not all of us, but a large group of people follow the Christian values. We all speak English. We all believe in democracy and the rule of law in America. So, yeah.
They look different. They just are different. And I don't have a problem.
Right. The look different is the only thing that so far I can agree with. Right. Different races look different. Just skin color wise, not even necessarily like, facial features, right? It's just the skin color.
With them in themselves, I'm Catholic. So, we believe that every human being is created by.
He's Catholic, so that's the Italians, right? Rome. You see where I'm going with this? So Catholic is Rome, but they had a problem with the Italians. he's trying to state that we should keep America white, the WASP white. WASP white has to do with Northern Europeans. Italians were more swarthy. So I'll have to go into that, like who's swarthy, because people talk about Jesus, etc. But the Italians are swarthy. So he's saying that America should stick with the WASP white, but a Catholicism is based upon Europeans who are swarthy.
God, we do believe there's a universal community of human beings, but you still have China, you still have India, you still have the Middle East and Africa. If America becomes a not white country, it's almost like we lose what's ours. And moreover, we're also losing it in Europe too. The European countries, they're undergoing the same
all of this stuff y'all scared of. When you did it to other people, what happened, right? So they have Native Americans in America. Europeans come and kill them. Is that a problem to Nick? You have British people going to Australia where they already had Aborigines. Was that a problem for Nick? You had Europeans and British people going into India. Was that a problem for Nick? Thank goodness the Asians were able to keep the Europeans and Africans out. They're the only people who have always kept everybody out. People have a hard time getting over there to East Asia. They're able to keep their culture and heritage separate from everybody else. But the Africans, that happened to the sub-Saharan Africans. African Americans, like I say, are now partly European. And the Northern Europeans came and demolished Africa, killed people, raped the women and children. The Muslims castrated the African Americans. So yes, I do see what Nick is saying. When people come, they can cause a problem. But Europeans did that across the whole world. That's why the whole world is upset at Northern Europeans.
information. And so, you know, there's this idea that we're going to be a post-racial country and live in a post-racial world, but it feels like white people are the ones that are going to be erased. There's still going to be Indians, Africans, Chinese, Peruvians in a post-racial world, but there won't be any white people.
This is getting tricky. I can see that, again, I said that last clip, there is too much hatred towards white people from the sense of, if there are less white people, like making that statement saying, let's say I've seen articles where it says we need less white babies. Those articles were published and nobody censored it. Nobody was fired. Wasn't outrage. But if someone once said we should have less black babies, they'll be fired. The platform will lose money. There's a hair, it's not a hair, but it's like, I'll just say kind of like a hair. There's some truth in some of these things Nick are saying from the standpoint of, we got to be fair to everybody. So it's nothing wrong with white people wanting to stay white. But the reason I said this is a little nuance, because something popped into my brain when he said that, we got to understand genetics. I'm 25% European, but my skin is black. So everybody's saying I'm like a sub-Saharan African because I have the look. But like, I still have those European genes. So what I'm saying to Nick and other people who are like white and saying we'll lose white culture, it's like, genetics, in terms of genetics, the black skin color comes out as the dominant gene. So the reason Europe is the way it was is because the people migrated, they had a different diet and they were away from the sun. So really, if Europeans had stayed in East Africa, they would look like the East Africans look, but the East Africans, when they migrated, changed pigmentation. So it's not their hair didn't change. East Africans always had the type of hair that Europeans currently have and Asians have. It's only the sub-Saharan Africans like me who had this type of hair. But so what I'm trying to explain to Nick is, yes, white, if you have blacks and whites and they intermingle, you'll lose the white skin, but you guys won't lose your heritage and identity. You'll still have your genetics. You'll just look how you used to look. You used to be darker skinned, and so you migrated where you migrated. So you can still be the same culture and heritage, you'll just be a different skin color. That's all I'm trying to get across.
There won't be any white nations. White people won't have power, and that's disconcerting for white people. I'm white. I feel white. I look white. I want to be.
You look white, but as we've discussed today now, you are not white. Italian, Hispanic, and Spanish. Is there any white in you, actually? Is there any Northern European in you? Because you've only mentioned 3 racial groups and none of them were Northern Europeans.
Be around people that look like me. That makes me comfortable. It makes me feel at home. And I think there's something tragic and there's something lost if, our homes are being erased. Neighborhoods are no longer filled with the same people, no longer the same heritage, culture, customs. It's sort of.
All of that will continue if people are dark skinned, especially since your whites will still have offspring and your DNA will still be there and we'll still have Western values in America. But yes, the pigmentation of people could change, but not the values.
Like our race and our countries are going extinct. And that is the part that really makes it different than 100 years ago.
Okay, but yeah, so in saying all that, though, I just want to go back to the first point I did state. We have white people. I'm sure they're proud of themselves. When white families, if two white people get together, they'll have a family. I'm not saying that we need to get rid of white people. I'm just stating that white people came from darker skinned people. So it's always possible to have white people while you have dark skinned people. If you have dark skinned people, I'm not sure if you could get, if you only had white people, I'm not sure if we could make dark skinned people again. But I am sure that like even if people mingle and people get a little darker, as long as people are separated and diets are different and we're in different parts of the world, I'm sure that there's a possibility that the whites he's talking about that would be lost could be, brought back. But I wouldn't even consider them being lost because I think you always keep your genes. We're going to probably add this to the show where I respond to comments because I like it and the producer says it's good interaction with people. So we're picking up some from where we left off yesterday. Izul Biz, 1839. Sometimes it's hard for me to see what comments these are from. Oh, nope, I need to go up. No, this is right. It's just not telling me what picture it's from or what video it's from. I need more than just your false statement. I got receipts to prove that total opposite of your claim. I put the title of the video in the previous comment. Are you searching for it? Don't know what they're talking about, but probably when I check the comments later, I'll be able to respond. You're completely lost. He was antithetical of Christ and truly a hate monger, a pure racist. Could be about, it looks like it's about Charlie Kirk, antithetical to Christ, truly a hate. No, I think he was a Christian. I mean, he had a family. I think they pushed Christian values at TPUSA. I just think he would take digs at certain groups of people, which Jesus wouldn't do that. But, that doesn't mean you're not a Christian because Jesus wouldn't curse and I curse my ass off. And I'm a Christian. That's somebody saying political clip. I seen that. As another black A-MRT 133925. This is to the Nick Fuentes, dear black people. As another black person, I feel sorry for you not being able to handle this. Truth is very hard for sure. I think I can handle it. Maybe I just get a little animated. So I said that during this response that maybe I should calm down. But I can handle what he said. He was just lying, so I called him out on his lies. Andres Loving, 8930. The white man who stabbed the black girl in Charlotte, North Carolina. You mean the black criminal who stabbed the Ukrainian? No, so there's both. A black person stabbed a Ukrainian refugee, but then also there was a white man who stabbed a black girl on a bus. Both of these things happened. I'm not sure if they happened in North Carolina, but maybe next episode, if I can remember and we set it up, I can show the story of the white man who stabbed the black girl. Also, I brought up Dylan Root this episode. He just shot up a whole bunch of black people. And there's obviously in America's history countless stories of whites, even in recent history, being violent towards blacks. Divine Beauty, 98. This is from the hidden link between crime and IQ, which was our second episode. It's our least watched episode, people. Check out the hidden link between crime and IQ. It talks about the relationship between crime and IQ. It's not necessarily a racist person that posted this. White people are tired of being the whipping boy of black people. Not sure how y'all are the whipping boy. Let's see. Let's continue. We are tired of hearing about the same mythical system, racism. I don't remember exactly what I touched on in that episode, but I don't believe in systematic racism. I believe that the test scores in America are basically showing what people are capable of. And I believe the income, crime, and the various other statistics that people always point out, they match people's test scores on a large scale. So not saying every individual person scores how they turn out in life, but just judging the groups on the whole, they're behaving like the scores say. So I don't believe in systematic racism like the Democrats and the left. I don't believe that people are being hired and unhired solely on their race. I don't believe judges are punishing and not punishing solely on people's race. I just think that when you go out for a job, I'll do the job, for example. When people go out for the job, there may be a certain amount of whites, a certain amount of Asians, a certain amount of Hispanics, and a certain amount of blacks eligible for each job. So I believe people are looking at the best candidates. Most often per capita, I think the best candidate for a high-skilled job, and high-skilled jobs mean like, okay, doctor, lawyer, business owners, things that are requiring a lot of cognitive skills, things that require a lot of cognitive energy. There's a higher percentage of Asians qualified to do those jobs. Next, it would be whites. Next, it would be Hispanics. Next, it would be blacks. So, of course, that pisses everybody off. But at the end of the day, when somebody's hiring for their business, they're trying to get the best qualified person. So they're naturally just seeing per capita, not saying the total amount of people, but they're not trying to be biased. All that's happening is they're seeing the candidates. They're looking at who's qualified, and more often than not, they're going to see Asians. Then next, like I say, whites. Then next, Hispanics. Then next, blacks. So they're hiring people based upon the qualifications. Second off, when dealing with, it doesn't happen so much to white people because they're the majority, but when you're dealing with a minority like Hispanics and blacks, if your group is not performing as well and they're not as intelligent, even if they can get some of the high-skilled jobs, there's so many high-skilled jobs in America, it's only a certain number of blacks who are qualified to do it. Only a certain number of Hispanics. Really only a certain number of whites and a certain number of Asians. But Asians, since they're so qualified per capita, you don't notice that they're a minority when you start talking about the high-skilled jobs. But what you notice with Hispanics and blacks is they're a minority and less of their population is able to do the job. So at some point, what happens is all the qualified blacks do get hired. There's still jobs out there. All the qualified Hispanics get hired. There's still qualified jobs out there. So you still have to hire people. So they start hiring whites. So what the blacks are seeing is they're saying, oh, we're 13% of the population. But I think right now blacks are like 5% of lawyers, 5% of doctors, right? So what they're saying is like, with 13%, we should be 13% of the lawyers and doctors. Well, actually, if you cut off the lawyers and doctors at a certain IQ, which basically is what standardized test is, you got to test them to get into law school. You got to pass the bar. I'll do go more in depth on this, but I know some of these numbers offhand. What's happening is that they are letting the black people who scored the scores to get into law school in. They're actually letting in blacks with a lower score. They're letting Hispanics in who can get the scores. They're actually letting in Hispanics with a lower score than whites. Then when they take the test after they've got into school, they've all got into the school now. Then they take the bar exam. They take the bar exam. The Asians and the whites are passing. 90% of the law students in law school that are Asian and white pass the bar. 80% of Hispanics pass. 65% of the blacks pass. So what I'm trying to show people is that in America, they giving everybody the opportunity. You can't, us as black people can't cry and say they don't have enough black attorneys. We got to pass the fucking bar. We're taking it and not even passing at the rate other groups are passing it. So it's not someone else's fault that our race is underachieving. That's something that we have to improve on ourselves. Hey, a lot of y'all are saying I don't take accountability. Hopefully y'all see that I am now. And that's also true of med school as well. Not exact numbers, but you know the general gist of what I'm saying. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point aren't savvy on security. Says a lot on his education and lack thereof. They probably had good security. I mean, Trump has the best security in the world, and he almost got shot twice. So yeah, anybody can be harmed. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's on Turning Point security. Caesar Gamise 9999 said this chick is a plant. So I don't know who they're talking about. BB thinks he's slick. She's totally advertising. Probably talking about those Instagram influencers. Could have been the Jewish ones. Could have been the Christian conservative. plant, for those who don't know the lingo of the young people, it's like an industry plant. That just means that somebody put them in that position and they didn't grow to their recognition and fame organically. So they're just saying that BB probably either paid her. There's something going on saying that Israel's paying influencer $7,000, and this person didn't mention that, but it's just saying that in some way she's a puppet or working for Israel. The ADL is a direct product of benign Berith. Gonna look into that. Nick mentioned it. I know what Zionism is. So Zionism is just saying the Jewish state, Israel should be a Jewish state. I think Jewish people should be allowed into Israel. It doesn't have to be a Jewish state because America is not a Christian state, and Russia is not a Christian state. They just have, Christian values that are part of their fabric. 15. That was Mr. Loud Thought. Mr. Loud Thought left another comment. Thanks for leaving comments, bro. Subscribe to the channel. 1559 is not slavery. Slavery was a product of Bacon's Rebellion. Heard of Bacon's Rebellion, can't remember what it is offhand, which is the original race dynamic of this country. Yeah, some people call slavery the original sin. Xavier Magnet, Kirk was a devout racist. Soft racist. Less racist than Nick, right? Charlie wasn't out here calling us niggers and all that type of shit. Epstein Files, also from Xavier, not sure what he's talking about. Robert Sanchez 5652. If whites are 3 times more likely to murder, no. Gotta get this straight. Whites are 3 times as likely as Asians to commit violent crime. Not 3 times as likely to commit murder. Let me think. Murder, 1. I think they're 2 times as likely to commit murder. So, okay, close to 3. But not exactly 3. Compared to Asians than blacks, according to analytics cross-referencing with GTG TAC. Black males are 400. No. Black males are not. Oh, well, he says 430 times plus more times likely to commit murder than Asians. Let me do the math for you guys and see if I can get this right. Okay. Blacks are like 0.0018 for murder. So that's, I don't want to say it the 100,000 because I might not get that right, but I think the number is 0.0018. Asians are 0.0001. Whites are 0.0002. And then Hispanics are like 0.004. So in comparison to Asians, I think blacks murder more likely than whites at 7%. I think blacks murder at the rate of Asians maybe 26% or 20%. It's not 430, bro. Oh, he also said black males. We're not getting into this, bro. I did that last episode. Now you're talking about the black males 14 to 42. They're committing 7. That's the group of black males committing the most murders is 15 to 42. They're committing it at like 70 and per 100,000. But then there are whites in Appalachia doing it at half the rate. So I don't know if his numbers are correct. He's saying that blacks are at 430 times more likely to kill. Blacks in that age group are 430 times more likely to kill compared to Asians. So I can do math a little bit, bro. Just to add on to your statement, let's say you're correct for the state of argument, for the point of arguing. That would also mean that whites in Appalachia are 230 times as likely to kill compared to Asians. So the same thing I'm saying applies, bro. It's still a problem in the white community. Also, blacks are 144 more likely to kill compared to... You're just going into semantics and you're going into it with the wrong person, bro. Like, you're saying black men commit more murder than white women. Well, men in general commit more murder than women. Then black people commit more murder than whites. So you're just piling on... You're piling on like the same stat in different ways. I could make this worse and worse. I could say black people 15 to 30 or 15 to 35 is even higher than 430 times. It might be 800 times because it's like I'm just focusing in on a specific and a smaller group. Oh, he had more, he said. Not too much more. No way you spin this to make you sound sane. I'm spinning it on the spot with you, bro. You coming up with all this math from the ChatGPT. And I'm doing it off the cusp, my nigga. This man is insane. Don't hurt anybody, bro. God's gonna punish me for eternity for my ignorance. Bro, if that was the case, he's gonna punish everybody because none of us have the knowledge or the grace or love that God has. I acknowledge my people's problems. Something wrong with you, bro. I hope you get the help you need. But follow and subscribe. I go through a therapy session myself. Maybe my therapy can help you. Robert Sanchez 5652. User JM46. It's too many stuff to name, but they commented on our first video. It's called The Usual Suspects, America's Focus on Black Crime. Ironically, guys, all these people who commented after Nick saying I don't take accountability, if you look at just the first 2 episodes, I'm not bashing blacks. Nick bashes blacks. I'm holding black people accountable for what they did. You're so intent. Well, I don't know. They commented on the one where I think I held blacks accountable. Let me see what this person is saying. You're so intensely dumb. And your dull lifeless eyes, Lord have mercy, they critique you on. I see how women feel. Nigga critique you on everything when you're on the camera. My dull lifeless eyes, what you on, bro? Your dull lifeless eyes communicate that before you open your. I'm drooling. Come on, bro. I'm gonna have to start ribbing some of you niggas. Like, I might separate some comments beforehand and we might just get into a little rib session. I might start going live. You know, we're gonna see. Cause I don't like the disrespect, and I'm ready for you niggas. And yes, you can be white niggas. That's what they call the whites in Southeast Europe. The niggas of Europe. Chris teasing. Okay. There are so many wonderful, beautiful people of all colors. Yes. It's the ghetto. You're going to do it by ratio. More of a problem in the ghetto for local crime and things, but 10 projects in America. 10 projects in New Orleans. I know tons of people from the project work hard, kind people, want the best for everybody. I'm not going to stereotype the ghetto in that way, but I do know what you're saying. Like, inside of the ghetto, there are more local problems. Like I say, the people in the ghetto aren't causing the war in Gaza. The people in the ghetto aren't causing the inflation in America. The people in the ghetto aren't causing the Republicans and Democrats not to be able to compromise. There are other problems that are big that have nothing to do with the lower class. That behavior of people is worldwide, yeah. Like, never do nothing. See, a lot of these slurs, like the do nothing slur and the we was kings, and a lot of these slurs that y'all, or we was this and per capita, a lot of these slurs, they're meant to be like condescending to blacks, but I just flip them. So anyway, she said like never do nothing, or wigs, lashes, slippers, and shower caps, guns, rape, gold teeth. See, she's just drawing a stereotype of black people, and I don't appreciate it. I think it's disrespectful, but she did say they have beautiful people of all races, but I wish she wouldn't stereotype poor people or poor people in the inner city. I'll stop reading it just because we was getting along. You going down a slippery slope. Chris Tenson, I like you for now. Let's keep it that way. Okay, getting towards the end of the comments. Lex Losophone. Why are you giving him the benefit of the doubt? Giving who? Nick. Okay, it's a comment on Nick on PBD. Why are you even doubting out loud? 12 years old is young, but not. Why am I giving him the? Why are you giving? I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he might have been a smart kid. Why am I doubting out loud? It's a live reaction video, so I'm literally responding in real time, and I talk out loud to keep training my own thoughts because I have so many. 12 years old is young, but not young for Nick. Yeah, I said he might have been a smart kid. Oh, you left 3 comments. I'll respond to all 3, bro. Lex, Los, Sofon. There you go. There it is. It's racist. It always like to pull out the racist. How original. It had not occurred to anyone. Wow, what insight. Nick says a lot of shit. Some of it is racist. That's probably why I said it was racist. What? CNN, you give both sides. Nope, no. Take a better look. Watch some of the other episodes. We have 7 or 8 up now. I try to give both sides, but I even try to break it down more so into 2 sides to let people know it's lots of sides, right? I don't want to call it a circle, but it's like liberals. No, leftists, liberals, progressives. Well, leftists, progressives, liberals, Democrats, libertarians, conservatives. No, Republicans, moderate Republicans, moderate Republicans, conservatives, then alt-right conservatives, right? It's so many groups of people, and that's just me thinking racially or ideology, but then you got economics, you got like social economics, and you got religion, Christian, Jewish, Islamic, atheist, Hindu, Buddhist. We just, I know this is a lot for everybody. Everybody don't want to think about everything. But what we should consider is not putting people in a one thing box. You're white. White what? White liberal? White liberal is completely different from a white conservative. You're black. You're black lower class. You're black upper class. I mean, we do quickly call people one name and try to make that name define them. There's too much to everyone. You can be a brother, father, and husband. It's just a lot to everybody. So when we name somebody by something and try to put them in a box, we're always doing a person injustice. So we should just work on how we treat others and how we engage with others. That is it for today's show, guys. See you guys next week, and we'll discuss other current and interesting topics going on in the news and the world around us. It's not just America, I guess. I've been covering the Middle East too. Peace, y'all. Blacks, Hispanics, and whites can't read. Why you think I started a podcast? It's a fucking racist thing with you niggas, and that's why I'm coming at you niggas next. They love to talk about black violence. Have you heard of white violence? White people commit violent crime at 3 times the rate of Asians. When is Nick Fuentes going to talk about white violence? Everybody's arguing about their 2 genders. I sat next to her hermaphrodite in math class. Am I allowed to talk about the Jews? If she wanted, we could do it in the morning. Yawning, letting my eyes stretch, baby, I ain't a novice. I've been a dog, she FaceTime, but I never